I only wanted to pass by. But I accidentally bumped into the alien princess. The garden incident. The crystalline gardens of Lirelay shimmered under the amber morning light, each translucent petal catching and refracting the rays of the binary suns. Kai Ashford moved carefully through the winding paths, his botanical scanner humming softly as he documented the alien flora. He had arrived on this world just 3 days ago, the first human xenobotanist granted permission to study the legendary gardens. Lost in his observations of a particularly fascinating bioluminescent vine, Kai stepped backward without looking, and collided with something warm and decidedly not plant-like. The impact sent both figures tumbling onto the soft, moss-like ground cover that carpeted the garden paths. "By the sacred stars!" a melodious voice exclaimed, tinged with surprise rather than anger. Kai scrambled to help the person he'd knocked over, his cheeks burning with embarrassment. His breath caught as he found himself staring into the most extraordinary eyes, deep violet with flecks of silver that seemed to swirl like miniature galaxies. The woman's skin had an subtle iridescent quality, shifting between pearl and lavender in the morning light. Her long silver hair was woven with what appeared to be living starlight. "I'm so sorry," he stammered, offering his hand. "I wasn't watching where I was going. These plants are just so fascinating that I—" She took his hand, her touch sending an unexpected warmth through him. "You're the Earth scientist," she said, not as a question but as recognition. Her lips curved into an amused smile. "Kai Ashford. Your reputation for walking into things while studying plants precedes you. You know who I am." He helped her to her feet, reluctantly releasing her hand. "I make it my business to know about unusual visitors to our world." She brushed off her flowing robes, which seemed to be woven from liquid moonlight. "Though I hadn't expected to meet you quite so horizontally." The way she said it, with that hint of playful mischief in her voice, made his pulse quicken. "And you are?" "Someone who probably shouldn't be talking to you," she replied cryptically. Then, leaning closer as if sharing a secret, she whispered, "But rules have always bored me terribly." Before Kai could respond, the sound of approaching footsteps made her expression shift. "The palace guard," she murmured. "I should go." "Wait, will I see you again?" She paused, looking back over her shoulder with those mesmerizing eyes. "Perhaps, if you're as clever at finding people as you are at finding plants, Kai Ashford." The language of light. The laboratory at Station Epsilon hummed with quiet efficiency as Marcus and Lirelay worked side by side, their research consuming long hours that stretched well past the station's designated rest periods. 3 weeks had passed since Marcus's arrival, and the unusual plant responses had only grown more pronounced. "Look at this," Lirelay said softly, gesturing to the monitoring screen. The bioluminescent samples in their shared observation chamber were creating intricate mandala patterns, something they only did when both researchers were present simultaneously. Marcus moved closer to examine the data, inadvertently brushing against Lirelay's shoulder. He noticed the subtle brightening of her skin where they touched, a violet glow that spread like watercolor on silk before fading. She didn't pull away. "Your people communicate through bioluminescence too, don't they?" Marcus asked, genuinely curious about what he'd been observing. Lirelay turned to face him, her silver eyes reflecting the soft blue glow of the specimen containers. "We do. Each emotion has its own signature. Joy is golden, like sunrise. Sadness shifts to deep indigo. And—" She hesitated, a faint rose color blooming across her cheeks. Attraction manifests as violet and silver pulses. The confession hung between them in the quiet lab. Marcus had noticed her skin's increasing luminescence around him, particularly during their late-night research sessions when they'd share stories of their respective worlds over cups of Kyrelian tea. "On Earth, we have a saying about wearing your heart on your sleeve," Marcus said gently. "But your people literally glow with their feelings." "It can be inconvenient," Lirelay admitted, her skin flickering with embarrassed amber, especially when trying to maintain professional boundaries. Their evening sessions became a routine that both eagerly anticipated. Lirelay taught Marcus to recognize the subtle variations in her people's light language, the quick flicker of amusement, the steady glow of concentration, the soft pulse of contentment. In return, Marcus shared Earth music through his personal datapad, watching in fascination as Lirelay's skin created light patterns that danced with the melodies. One night, as they documented a particularly responsive specimen, their hands accidentally met over the control panel. Instead of pulling away, Lirelay let her fingers remain near his. "Marcus," she began, her skin shimmering with nervous energy, "the plants aren't the only ones responding to your presence." The admission sparked something between them, as tangible as the bioluminescent reactions they studied. Marcus turned his hand palm up in silent invitation. When Lirelay placed her hand in his, her skin illuminated in waves of violet and silver, creating patterns he was beginning to understand meant something far deeper than mere scientific interest. Forbidden radiance. The monthly station meeting was held in the main conference room, with all 43 researchers in attendance. Lirelay stood at the presentation podium, explaining their preliminary findings on the unprecedented bioluminescent patterns. Marcus sat in the third row, trying to maintain professional distance despite the magnetic pull he felt toward her. "As you can see," Lirelay gestured to the holographic display, "the interaction between human and Chiralian bioelectric fields creates a unique resonance in the flora." Her eyes met Marcus's across the room, and suddenly her skin erupted in unmistakable violet-silver cascades. The entire room fell silent. Every Chiralian present recognized the light pattern immediately, the unmistakable radiance of deep romantic attraction. Dr. Harrison, the station director, cleared his throat. "Dr. Voss, perhaps you need a moment." Mortified, Lirelay's skin shifted to the amber of embarrassment mixed with persistent violet undertones she couldn't suppress. Excuse me," she managed, quickly leaving the podium. Marcus found her an hour later on the observation deck, staring out at Chiralia's bioluminescent forests. The twin moons painted everything in ethereal light, but nothing compared to the soft glow emanating from Lirelay herself. "You shouldn't be here," she whispered without turning. "People are already talking." "Let them talk," Marcus said, moving to stand beside her. "You don't understand." Lirelay turned to face him, her skin pulsing with distress. "Interspecies relationships are forbidden by station protocol. You could be sent back to Earth. I could lose my position." "Some things are worth the risk," Marcus said quietly. Lirelay's breath caught, her luminescence intensifying. "Marcus, I've tried to suppress this. I've meditated, I've avoided you, I've thrown myself into work. But my light betrays what I can no longer hide. I am falling in love with you." The confession hung between them like a suspended star. Her skin rippled with vulnerable pulses of violet and silver, no longer trying to hide what she felt. Marcus could see the courage it took for her to speak these words, knowing the consequences they both faced. "The first night in the garden," Marcus said, stepping closer, "when the plants created that purple-silver light, I think they recognized something we were too afraid to admit. That we're meant to be together, despite every logical reason we shouldn't be." Lirelay's eyes shimmered with unshed tears that caught her skin's bioluminescence. "But the regulations were written by people who never felt this," Marcus interrupted gently. He raised his hand, palm facing her but not quite touching. "Your light speaks a truth that transcends any rulebook." Lirelay lifted her own hand to mirror his, their palms an inch apart. The space between them seemed to shimmer with potential energy, her skin's glow reaching toward him like solar flares seeking connection. Eclipse of the heart. Marcus closed the distance between their hands, palm meeting palm in a touch that sent waves of purple-silver light cascading across Lirelay's entire form. She gasped softly, her bioluminescence creating patterns he'd only seen in their most responsive plant specimens, spirals and starbursts that seemed to pulse with life itself. "I love you too," Marcus whispered, his other hand gently cupping her face. Her skin was warm and smooth, the light beneath it dancing at his touch. Lirelay leaned into his palm, her eyes closing as tears of relief traced glowing paths down her cheeks. When she opened them again, the silver depths held entire galaxies of emotion. "You beautiful, impossible human," she murmured, before rising on her toes to press her lips to his. The kiss was gentle, tentative, a first contact between two species never meant to connect this way. Lirelay's bioluminescence enveloped them both in a cocoon of soft violet light, and Marcus could swear he felt electricity dancing across his skin where she touched him. Over the following weeks, they stole moments whenever possible. In the early morning hours, They would meet in the bioluminescent forests, where Lirelei taught Marcus to read the stories her light language told. Her skin would create constellation patterns when he traced his fingers along her arms, each touch generating new stars in their private universe. "When you touch me here," she whispered one dawn, guiding his hand to her wrist where her pulse fluttered, "my light responds differently than anywhere else. It's where Kyrelians believe the soul's radiance originates." Marcus pressed a kiss to that glowing pulse point, feeling her shiver. "On Earth, we call it a heartbeat. But yours is like touching captured starlight." Their secret couldn't last. Dr. Harrison called Marcus to his office on a grey afternoon, his expression stern. "I'm reassigning you to Earth on the next transport," he said without preamble. "Your involvement with Dr. Voss compromises the integrity of your research. Our personal relationship has only enhanced our scientific understanding," Marcus protested. "The discoveries we've made are irrelevant if they come at the cost of station protocol," Harrison interrupted. "The transport leaves in 3 days." That night, Marcus found Lirelei in their secret spot in the forest, her skin dim with sorrow's deep indigo. "I heard," she said simply. "I won't leave you," Marcus said fiercely, pulling her into his arms. Her skin flickered weakly, like dying embers. "You have to," she whispered against his chest. "But Marcus, there might be another way. During tomorrow's triple moon alignment, something that happens only once every 7 years, there's an ancient ritual. A binding ceremony that even station protocols cannot override." Her skin began to pulse with desperate hope mixed with fear. "If we bond according to Kyrelian law, they cannot separate us. But it means choosing each other above our careers, above everything." Marcus tilted her chin up, meeting those silver eyes. "I already have." Beyond worlds. Kai woke in a holding cell at the spaceport, his head pounding and his heart aching worse. Through the energy barrier, he could see his ship being prepped for immediate departure. His guard, a young Lirelei soldier, kept glancing at him with something like sympathy. "She's refusing to eat," the guard said quietly. "The princess. She's locked herself in her chambers and won't speak to anyone." Before Kai could respond, alarms began blaring throughout the facility. The guard's communicator crackled to life. "Security breach in Sector 7. The princess is missing. Repeat, Princess Serafina has disappeared." The lights suddenly cut out, plunging them into darkness. When the emergency lighting kicked in, Serafina stood outside his cell, wearing simple traveler's clothes and carrying a pack. Her hair was bound and hidden, but her eyes blazed with determination. "Did you really think I'd let them ship you off without me?" She pressed her hand to the cell's control panel. The crystal she'd given him was embedded in a ring on her finger, and it overrode the lock instantly. "Serafina, your kingdom will survive without me. But I won't survive without you." She grabbed his hand, pulling him toward a back corridor. "There's an old portal in the ancient wing of the spaceport. It leads to the neutral zone. We can disappear there, build a life where no one knows who we are." They ran through the twisting passages, the sound of pursuit growing closer. The ancient wing was dusty and forgotten, filled with technology from Lirelei's earliest spacefaring days. The portal stood in the center, a ring of iridescent metal covered in symbols neither fully understood. "It hasn't been used in decades," Serafina said, working frantically at the controls. "But the power source is still active." "Your Highness, stop." Councillor Vexian appeared at the entrance, flanked by guards. "Think of your duty. Your people." Serafina turned to face him, still holding Kai's hand. "I have thought of nothing else my entire life. For once, I choose to think of myself." She looked at the guards, her voice carrying royal authority one last time. "I hereby formally abdicate my claim to the throne of Lirelei. Let the council rule as they see fit." The portal hummed to life behind them, showing a swirling vortex of stars and possibilities. "You would abandon everything for this alien?" Vexian spat the word. "No," Serafina said, stepping backward toward the portal with Kai. "I'm abandoning nothing. I'm choosing everything: love, freedom, a life where I'm more than just a symbol." "Together?" Kai asked, squeezing her hand as they stood at the threshold. "Together," she confirmed, and they jumped. The sensation was like falling through liquid starlight. When they emerged on the other side, they stood on a platform overlooking a bustling market city where a dozen different species mingled freely. The binary suns setting on the horizon painted the sky in shades of purple and gold. "So," Kai said, pulling her close as they looked out at their new world, "what does a former princess do in a place like this?" Serafina smiled, genuine and free for the first time since they'd met. "Whatever she wants. Maybe I'll become a xenobotanist's assistant. I hear earth flowers are quite beautiful when tended with love." He kissed her then, there on the platform between worlds, as the stars began to emerge in the evening sky. They had given up their separate worlds but found a universe in each other, a love that truly transcended the boundaries of planets, politics, and propriety. In the garden where they'd first collided, new flowers began to bloom, a hybrid of earth roses and lirelay crystal blossoms, impossible yet beautiful, proof that even the most unlikely combinations could create something extraordinary. The end.